I hope you liked that April Fool's joke I did a while back, even though it was pretty bad. But now that I'm done joking around, it's time to analyze Master Rally. For real this time. Hi everyone, as always Patrick here. If you're already subscribed, make sure you turn on notifications, otherwise YouTube won't tell you if I posted anything. If you are new to the channel, make sure you watch until the very end and consider subscribing if you like it. Okay, Master Rally. Master Rally was developed by Steel Monkeys and published by Microids back in 2001. More specifically, in December of 2001. You know what that means. Don't worry, if you don't know what that means, it will make sense later. Also, I'm sorry if the background music is louder than my voice. If this is a problem for you, I'll fix it in my next video. Anyways, let's start this analysis video by talking about the graphics. Obviously, a game released in 2001 isn't going to look very good graphically nowadays. However, when you compare the graphics of Master Rally to the graphics of other games that were also released in 2001, you will quickly notice that Master Rally doesn't hold up really well. Low quality textures, low quality effects, particle effects are almost non-existent. Yeah, it just doesn't look very good, even for 2001 standards. But it gets worse. There are many locations in this game: France, Germany, Spain, etc. However, the locations don't really feel like France, Germany, or Spain, or etc., as they all blend into one another. In other words, the graphics are washed out and low-key for a 2001 title. Everything in this game simply looks the same. To prove my point, let's compare the graphics of Master Rally to the graphics of other racing games that also came out in the year 2001. In 2001, we had racing games like Paris-Dakar Rally, R2000, Sega GT, Rally Championship Extreme, Torx, and Rally Trophy. While Master Rally does look better than Torx and R2000, every other game I've just mentioned looks way better graphically than Master Rally. Master Rally simply has bad graphics, that's all I can say. Also, please take to consideration the time where the game came out. Almost 2002! And since I've mentioned 2002, here are some games that also came out in 2002. Rage Rally, Racing Dynamics, and Rally Sports Challenge. And it's not like the graphics in racing games weren't improving. No, graphics in racing games were rapidly improving. And Master Rally didn't help itself by making bad graphics. I could say more about how bad the graphics of Master Rally really are, but I think I've said enough, so let's move on. Unfortunately, I can't really move on because I have to talk about the options and the stability of the game. And the options and the stability aren't much better, unfortunately. Man, this is not a good day. The game supports widescreen resolutions with major issues, and there are only basic graphical options you can change. And that's pretty much it. Okay, there's one more thing I have to say. The frame rate is smooth and it doesn't drop. It's way above 120 FPS, so that's something. You can probably guess what I'm going to say next. No anti-aliasing, no anisotropic filtering, no FOV slider, you get the idea. But I do have good news. There is a small modder called Automaniac005, or as a Polish person would say it, Automaniac005, and he made an FOV mod. And this mod also includes a widescreen fix, so I'm really grateful for that. All you have to do is download the mod, copy and paste the mod into the installation folder, then run the mod, and then set up the FOV and the widescreen resolution in this mod file. I should mention that I use this mod only to increase the FOV. You can also use it to fix the HUD by making it widescreen, but the widescreen HUD makes the HUD pretty small, so I kept it like it's out of the box, if you know what I mean. And I changed the FOV because the default FOV is pretty bad. Here I use the FOV of 1.3. Yeah, this mod uses some weird FOV calculation that I don't understand. So I used the 1.3 FOV. Well, I inserted it in that mod file, and now the FOV feels actually pretty good. And I've just realized that I have to talk about the stability of the game. Well, at least it didn't crash, it didn't stutter, the frame rate didn't drop. However, there is one really big issue with the game. Broken menu transitions. For some reason, this game has a bug where the menu transitions freeze for long periods of time. Thankfully, after 20 years or possibly more, someone actually found a workaround for this. Or should I say created a workaround. You get the point. So what's the workaround? There is a file you can download called freezepatch.py or something like that. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, sorry. By clicking on the download raw file icon. Also, the download might get blocked by the browser. If so, unblock it. Don't worry, it's not a virus, I've checked. Oh yeah, and that freeze patch I'm talking about, I found it on GitHub, so that's why I said to use the download raw file icon. Once you download that file, then you have to install Python 3.x, standalone version or from the Microsoft Store. Then you have to right click the freeze patch file and open it with Python. And then once you open that file, select the path to mrallye.exe to patch it. If you've done everything correctly, this main menu freeze bug no longer appears. And it actually stays fixed. You don't have to worry about repeating the process, so that's great. So yeah, the graphics are bad, the options are bad, and the stability is not the best. Man, I'm finally done with this section of the video. Jesus, that took a long time. Now, let's talk about the story. You know, sometimes I ask myself, why do I even bother analyzing the story when the game doesn't have a story? Especially rally games. I've never seen a rally game that has a story. Or maybe I just wasn't looking closely enough, I don't know. If you, for some reason, don't understand what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to say that Master Rallye has no story. So I'm going to completely skip that section of the video and I'm just going to talk about the gameplay. Thankfully, I have a lot of things to say here. First things first, what is Master Rallye even about? Well, as you can see, it's a racing game, but there is a little bit of a story behind the game. Master Rally was a real-life 5,000-kilometer event that took part between Paris and Moscow, and this game covers it. Now you're probably asking me, does this really matter? You'll see. You will see. Now that we have the context out of the way, let's talk about things that actually matter, like the damage model. Visual damage is okay if you consider the fact that the game came out in 2001. What I'm trying to say is that the damage model looked good in 2001, or okay, but nowadays it looks like a spiky car more than anything. There are no scratches, but there are dents, and that's pretty much it when it comes to visual damage. Things get interesting when we consider the fact that the damage model affects the handling. You see those 5 dials under the timer, or should I say under the record and split time? Yeah, those are 5 things that affect the handling. You can damage your steering wheel, your engine, your suspension, your gearbox, and your tires. When you damage the steering wheel, the car starts leaning towards left or towards right. It depends on something. I haven't really figured out how this works yet. I mean, I have damaged it just so I can see what it's like, but it's random. Sometimes it leans to the left side, sometimes it leans to the right side, so it's never the same side. When you damage the engine, the car becomes slower and also stutters from time to time. Like, for example, sometimes it loses power, and when it loses power, it loses speed. So you also have to be careful to not to damage your engine that much, or just don't damage the engine at all. When you damage the suspension, not much actually happens. Apparently the car becomes more stiff and the landings are harder, but honestly when you damage the suspension, not much happens. There's not much difference, so I guess suspension doesn't really affect the handling that much. When you damage the gear shift, the driver skips one gear. This is very bad because, for example, you start in gear 1 obviously, and then you jump immediately to gear 3. So you pick up speed very slowly. This hurts the sense of speed in a way, but it's also done intentionally. The game wants you to be careful and to not damage your car. So yeah. And lastly, when you damage the tires, the car becomes more slippery. Not much to say here. In other words, visual damage, okay, but it's outdated. But the fact that the damage affects the handling, priceless. Now let's talk about the physics. And I have to say, physics are kinda hard for me to describe in this game. Mainly because not every vehicle shares the same physics. The cars feel planted to the ground, most of the time at least. Most of them have decent downforce. They don't lift off the ground and some of them feel quite heavy. Except when you're driving off a cliff and then you fall, then the cars feel lightweight for some reason. Like they fall pretty slowly and they don't really speed up when falling. Weird. I guess I don't have that much to say about the physics. Can we talk about the handling instead? Every car in Master Rally handles differently. Every car has 4 stats: max speed, acceleration, durability, and handling. Yeah. Max speed and acceleration are pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to explain them, but I will say that those two stats are actually the most important stats in the game. So if you're going to pick a car, you should pick them based on their max speed and acceleration. Mostly the acceleration though. Durability is how much damage a car can take. Some cars can take a lot of damage and they will still work perfectly fine. But there are some cars that are as weak as paper and they can damage just by a scratch. So you also need to be careful with what you pick. However, this stat doesn't actually matter that much compared to max speed and acceleration. The handling stat is basically how well the car turns. Some cars turn slowly and sluggishly, but some cars turn very quickly and precisely. But like I've said before, this stat doesn't matter that much compared to max speed and acceleration. However, the game does allow you to change the handling for each car, because each car has this button called car settings, where you can basically modify a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to explain it. I've played with the default settings on every car because to me, car settings is like black magic to me. With that being said, I guess now I'm going to talk about the cars and the tracks. I don't know which one to start with. You know what? I guess I'll start with the cars. Like I've said before, every car has different stats and every car handles differently. But wait, there's more. There are 3 tiers of cars in this game. Tier 1, Tier 2 and Tier 3, or as the game calls it, T1, T2 and T3. Tier 1 consists of stock cars or unmodified cars, pretty slow but good enough for the beginning. Then there's Tier 2. Tier 2 consists of modified cars. Pretty much they are pretty much very similar to Tier 1, however they are modified in a way that they are completely different. They are much faster, they have better handling, and so on and so forth. And then there's Tier 3. Tier 3 consists of the best cars in the game. They are incredibly fast, incredibly powerful in terms of horsepower, but they are also the hardest one to master. Or, just in case you didn't hear me correctly, they are the hardest ones to master. Sorry, sometimes my microphone doesn't pick certain letters. I have no idea why. Also, Tier 3 consists of some wacky and silly and just straight up goofy cars. Because that was the style at the time. Well, back in the early 2000s at least. Like the UFO, for example. You know, since I've mentioned the UFO, I have to say, the game has some really nice variety of cars. Many of the vehicles in this game are almost standard off-road 4x4 machines, but there are also a few powerful buggies, like a couple of the Schlesser cars. When you combine those tiers and variety with the fact that every car handles differently and other stuff like that, there is something satisfying about driving those cars in this game. Granted, the handling is outdated nowadays, but it still feels better than most modern racing games. But this is a topic I would rather not get into in this video, so I guess I'll just move on and talk about the tracks. While the environments look bleak, empty and boring, the track design is not too bad. Each track has an even amount of turns and straight lines. And since those aspects are evenly split, the sense of speed is decent, or dare I say it, good. The courses are not tight, and because of that you can pick some serious speed, or pick up some serious speed, or whatever. Some tracks also have obstacles in the way that you have to avoid, like holes, small bridges that you have to get across, otherwise you'll fall in the hole, and other minor but interesting stuff like that. All those things I've just described about the gameplay are things that I like, minus the visual damage, but that's a small thing. Now it's time to talk about the stuff I didn't like. The first bad quality of the game is the sound design. The environment isn't full of sounds. There are some birds that chip around in the background. Sometimes waterfall makes sounds. But I'm talking about the car sounds. Almost every single car in the game sounds the same. And the sound effect they chose for 90% of the cars is pretty bad in terms of quality. There are two exceptions to that rule though. Some of the Schlesser cars have different engine sounds and they sound alright, and the UFO sounds different because, well, it's a UFO, it's supposed to sound different. Another bad quality is the environment. Yes, I know I've talked about this before, but every track in the game looks bleak, empty and boring. There's almost nothing there except for a couple of trees, and sometimes you can see a small town of some sorts, but that's not enough. Most of those tracks are pretty empty. And yet another bad quality is something that I have also mentioned before, and that is the fact that the game is difficult to run on modern machines. Well, to be more specific, it lacks a lot of options and the stability is not the best. I know, I've said this before, but I felt like I needed to mention this again. However, in the case of Master Rallye, I have also prepared 3 additional bad qualities, but those are special bad qualities. Those are very, very odd design choices. The first odd design choice is the GPS. To put it simply, it's useless. It doesn't show anything. It doesn't show where you are on the map. It doesn't show you how far do you have to go to reach the finish line. It doesn't even show you where to go except for this green triangle that doesn't help at all. So it's useless. And the worst thing about the GPS, you cannot disable it in the options. So you're stuck with a useless GPS. Why? Why is this a thing? The second odd design choice is how the return to track system works. You can press the R key to return to the track if you get stuck or if you are off the beaten path. At least that's what I set it in the options. So when you press the R key, you have to wait a few seconds to return to the track. Your opponents can easily overtake you during those few seconds, and it takes a long time before you can finally return to the track. And I say that the opponents can easily overtake you because while you could try to get back on the track instead of waiting those few seconds, when you press the R key, You cannot move at all, even if you're not stuck. You're just stuck in one place, even when you're not stuck, and you have to wait several seconds before you can get back to the track. And in those few seconds, opponents can easily, very easily in fact, overtake you. Why? Why is this mechanic designed this way? But you know what? The bad GPS and the bad return to track mechanic are things that you will be able to get used to pretty quickly. But this third odd design choice absolutely broke me. The third odd design choice is how you reverse. In the options menu, you can choose your type of gear changing. No, that's not the name, whatever. You can have automatic car or a manual car. Sounds cool, right? It works, right? Well, kind of. Even when you use the automatic setting, which I used, to reverse the car, you have to stand completely still, then change the gears manually to the reverse gear, and then instead of pressing the down arrow key, yes, I use arrow keys, you have to press the same arrow key to go forwards. In my case, it's the up arrow key. So, what does that mean? You have an automatic car that cannot reverse by its own. You have to stand completely still. You have to manually change the gears to the reverse gear, and you can't even use the brake key to go backwards. You have to use the gas key to go backwards. Like, what is this? Yes, this odd design choice is so bad that I've made a huge mistake in the previous sentence. I've said by its own and not on its own. I'm sorry for making that mistake, but this odd design choice is so bad. And it's not like this is the only game that does this. No. A few years after this game came out, Alarm for Cobra 11 Nitro did the same thing. You couldn't brake until you did some stupid thing. I don't really remember right now. Well, actually I do remember, but it was done so much better in Alarm for Cobra and in other games as well. For example, in Alarm for Cobra 11 Nitro, you didn't have to manually change gears to the reverse gear. You could simply brake, then, well, you still had to press the brake key again to go backwards. But at least you didn't have to do those stupid workarounds with manually changing gears and then pressing forwards to go backwards. Like, who designs racing games this way? But you know what? I have become very negative now, so now I'm just going to calm down and talk about one thing I love about this game. Like, legitimately love. The soundtrack. I love it, I love it, I love it. There is so much variety when it comes to the soundtrack. Rock, pop, techno, trance, and so much more. Not to mention, the music is really nice on the ears. It's especially really good when you listen to it on your headphones. It's so high quality. The soundtrack is easily the best part about this game. But there are also two other things that I absolutely love. I love the fact that it plays like a rally game. The reason I love this is because, well, rally games are my favorite subgenre, or I guess a normal genre. I'll just call them a subgenre. Those are my favorite subgenre of racing games. And yeah, not much to say here. It feels right like a rally game. It plays like a rally game. The track design is like a rally game. The whole atmosphere of Master Rally is like a rally game from the early 2000s, which I really love. I also love the competitions in this game. While it while every competition plays like a rally game, as I've said just a few seconds ago, I have to say the career mode is done pretty well. You have 5 championships. Each of the each championship is 3 stages long, and each stage can take up to 5 minutes to complete. Normally I would complain about this, but I actually like this, so I can't complain. The only thing I don't like about those championships is the fact that you have to do them 3 times with 3 different tiers. But when you come first in most of these, you unlock new cars, usually, and each car you unlock is usually better than the last, but not all the time. So winning those championships feel rewarding. I also love the Master Rally mode. In this mode, you have to complete 10 stages in a single run using only one car. The reason I like this is because you have to know which car is the best out of every tier. So, with that being said, the game also encourages you to get familiar with the cars. Sometimes you can pick a bad car by complete accident, but sometimes you can also complete a very good car also by complete accident. And that's what I call the magic of Master Rally. Finding out which car is the best, constantly improving at the game, and trying your best to win every stage. Especially in Master Rally mode. 10 stages in one go, only one car. Man, that's pretty fun. Tedious, but fun. I also love the challenges in the challenge mode. There are 11 challenges in the game, and every single challenge is a duo. Every car is modified in a different way, so you cannot modify them. You have to use the car with very specific modifications that the game gives you. Also, those challenges play a lot like duos, or should I say knockout duos. When you come last, you're knocked out, so you can't really make mistakes. So that's also nice touch. Well, I mean, what I wanted to say is that I see this as a nice touch. Nice game mode, nice touch, everything about this is nice. Well, almost everything. The final challenge is ridiculously difficult, but I think I'll talk about this challenge in a different video. And I also love the invitation series, but I can't really explain to you why I love it so much. You just have to play the game and see for yourself. Alright, I think this video is long enough. In conclusion, I like Master Rally. It's not my favorite, it's not the best racing game I've ever played, but I did have a lot of fun with it. The game provides fun challenge, although sometimes it's a bit ridiculous, decent track design, well balanced cars, some cars being better, some cars being worse, amazing soundtrack, and the game unfortunately also has some bad qualities like every single game. like the bad sound design, especially the cars, empty environments, bad graphics, and those really odd design choices. But I, despite this, I had a lot of fun with this game. So do I recommend it? I guess so. It's not going to be the best racing game you will ever play, but it's definitely pretty fun. Fun and challenging. Well, fun if you also like really old, and by really old I mean 20+ year old games like me. But getting the game nowadays isn't easy, unfortunately. The game is an abandonware, you can't buy it anywhere, so you have to look at some strange websites like myabandonware.com, not sponsored. Oh, and if you're going to play this game, make sure you fix that menu transition freezing issue, otherwise it will drive you insane. So, what can I say? The game is fun. I wouldn't say go play it, but if you want to check it out, you can check it out. But that pretty much sums up everything I wanted to say in this analysis video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.